Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got the maintenance time and the patch notes for the Deadpool update. So I want to talk about all of that with you guys, let you know how I see this update panning out. But first, I want to let you guys know that 4 hours after the maintenance begins for Marvel Future Fight, I will be live on twitch.tv/Cynicalex, and then when the update goes live 2 hours later, after some kind of chilling out, we are going to be the first ones in game to check out all of the new content, the epic quests, and new characters, uniforms, etc. So you do not want to miss that. Be sure to find yourself on twitch.tv/Cynicalex either when the update goes live or 2 hours before, when I'll be doing some other games and just chilling out, answering questions with the chat. And if you missed all that information, it's down below in the description. So we have the maintenance time there. Let's check out the patch notes. The link for the patch notes is also below in the description. But it's a lot what we've come to expect. There's not a ton of surprises, at least here in the patch notes. There may be more surprises in-game, but there's still some interesting stuff and some controversial stuff to talk about. So as far as the new characters go, we've got Deadpool. It's a speed-heavy update, so we do have to keep that in mind. Speed characters have lower stats by default. For Deadpool, his leadership is quite hilarious. It gives all allies 1% recovery rate. Of course, that goes up to probably 6% when you level up the skill or level up his leadership, his mastery. But he gives himself a huge buff, so the wording on that is very important. His other skills and his passive effects seem quite strong. He's got a very nice heal. He's got increased damage and crit rate, but that's all when he's below 99%. So at 100%, he might seem a little bit worse until he starts to lose health. As far as his skills go, we don't see too many or any new effects besides this one called Incapacitation. We're going to see it a lot more on some other characters, but I don't think it's an existing effect, so it appears to be a new kind of debuff effect where it removes active buffs from the enemy. So it may be a version of something we've come to expect from someone like Enchantress, or it might be the more powerful version for someone like Doctor Strange, where it removes all active buffs. He's got a lot of self buffs to himself as well, and then he has 2 skills where he can penetrate. The only thing I noticed when I kind of compared all of the penetration effects is that it seems that penetration to invincibility is becoming rarer, which does make invincibility a better form of protection than immunity, a rarer and more valuable form of protection. Whereas about a year ago or a year and a half ago, it was the other way around. Invincibility was worse because it could be debuffed, and immunity was just inherently better because it couldn't be debuffed. But frankly, at this point, I would rather risk getting debuffed or having an anti-debuff leadership like Wasp or Tier 2 passive than invincibility, or then immunity, which can be penetrated, which in this case, it looks like invincibility is harder to penetrate. Then we got Domino, another speed type with a pretty interesting leadership. We got the combination of ignore, dodge, and crit rate, which is cool. Then she's got some very nice tier 2 passives with increased guaranteed dodge. Also dodge on her tier 1, so it's very easy to max out her dodge and make her very hard to hit. Then she also gets crit damage and guaranteed crit. So she's going to deal a lot of damage. Should be very interesting to see her maybe out DPS Deadpool at tier 2 before he jumps to tier 3. Then her skills seem pretty straightforward. She does have increased skill cooldown to the enemy, which is a very interesting debuff that we haven't seen much, if any, of before from playable characters. We've probably seen it from NPCs and stuff like that, but that should be very cool and possibly a meta ability, forcing your opponents to have more skill cooldown as long as they don't have debuff, of course. And she has all reflect, which is very valuable. Fantomex seems more of a cookie cutter type speed character, not as many new effects. He does have a heal, which I was surprised to see, but it's nice that he's getting something to heal himself. Mind resistance, super armor, which is great. And then he also deals 65% increased damage to mutants. So kind of like the opposite of Magneto's tier 2 passive, dealing, I believe it was 80% more damage to humans. So yeah, Fantomex killing the mutants should be an exciting kind of counter, especially since there are a lot of blast mutants. We're getting, since all of these characters are mutants, we are getting 3 new speed mutants, but we have a lot of existing blast mutants. Jean Grey, Storm, Magneto. I'm probably forgetting a couple there. Of course, Cable, Strife. So it should be nice to see how that kind of introduces some counterplay, if any, to the meta. His other skills seem to be pretty straightforward. He's got some debuffs in terms of stuns. He's got some self buffs. He's got mind control, which we love. Now it's so hot, and some other buffs to himself. Then we have Psylocke, the Magneto of the update, going to be costing 6,600 crystals to unlock at 6 stars, and then you'll build her up to tier 2 through the epic quest. Leadership is kind of garbage, that's okay. Her tier 1 and tier 2 passive are quite interesting. Immunity to spirit of dominance of spirit is mind control, so she won't be able to be mind controlled, which makes her immediately a possible contender for a Scarlet Witch counter, a Luna Snow counter, things like that, because she can't be crowd controlled by that specific effect, even without the presence of a Wasp or an Angel leadership or something like that. She also has a 100% chance to penetrate on her 5th skill, and her 5th skill is a huge iframe with very large AoE, so that should be quite interesting. But again, invincibility is missing from that list of penetration items, so there is some counter. As far as her skills go, she's got quite a lot of debuff for mind resistance, so very similar to Scarlet Witch. She's got an all reflect, which is very nice. 5 seconds of reflect and 5 seconds of immunity should make her quite annoying, possibly a meta PvP candidate. And then she's got 5 seconds of her own mind control on her 5th skill, in addition to self buffs, in addition to that 100% chance to penetrate. So I'm expecting some highlights of Psylocke just melting people's faces with Butterfly Phantasm. And then we have the new OP hero. Hello, Jean 2.0. I don't want to make any bold predictions about Strife, but I'm going to make a bold prediction. He's going to become the new best character in the game. He's got skills and effects we've never seen before, and I just think his level of power is unrivaled. But we'll have to see in-game the numbers. But he does have the debuff leadership, which is super ultra, maximum meta. He's got a very powerful tier 1 passive with 50% damage reduction, which Jean has 0 damage reduction. He also is immune to incapacitation and fracture. Incapacitation is buff removal, so you can't even remove his buffs. Even if his leadership is on cooldown, he just cannot have any of his buffs removed ever, kind of like, I believe, Odin. Should be very similar to that. And then immunity to fracture effect. I'm not sure what fracture is, we'll find out, but it sounds pretty powerful because guess what? Strife has fracture on most of his skills. And then his tier 2 passive gives him a whopping 80% chance to penetrate everything, including invincibility, at all times, which is insane. The highest we've had, I think, is 75% or 70%. So this should be a new level of headache / migraine for us to deal with. Oh, in addition to super armor, in addition to increased skill damage and bonus damage. So this is a wild power creep for a native tier 2 for the kind of Jean Grey-esque characters. And then his first skill has fracture. His second skill has incapacitation. His third skill has incapacitation and fracture and a guard hit and a buff. His fourth skill has incapacitation. His fifth skill has fracture, stun, incapacitation, invincibility. So he looks pretty bananas. We're going to have to find out just what fracture does and how powerful it is, but this could be a meta-defining ability. And we may be looking to the next patch notes in a month or two. Which characters have fracture? How do we counter fracture, etc.? If it's just a simple debuff that we can counter with a debuff leadership or Wasp, that's fantastic. If it's something unholy and different, we're in for a world of hurt at the hands of Strife until we can find an eventual counter somewhere else down the line. So it tells you how to upgrade or how to access all these characters. Domino and Fantomex are from the Epic Quest, also from regular Premium Hero chests, as most characters are, and then also the Xtreme sub. So they are improving the value of the Xtreme sub, which seems a little bit devalued prior to this update because it's really only for Magic and Colossus. But Colossus, we also had the Faction War bios. We're getting a repeat of the faction battle, even though it's not stated here. It was stated on the live stream yesterday. And hopefully you'll also be able to obtain Colossus bios from the Epic Quest. It's not stated that you can, but there is a menu for the epic quest that says I think it's silly Xmen or stupid Xmen or something like that. So hopefully we are getting that, and the reason why it's important you'll find out very soon. We're getting 2 new uniforms, as I said, for Cable and Colossus. Cable's uniform seems just for ABX, so that was not a surprise. He's probably going to remain a one-trick pony, but he might be a bit better defensively. Colossus's uniform seems decent. He's got immunity to fracture, so at least we have one possible counter. I highly doubt Colossus is going to be a counter to Strife, but he could be. And then he has a 30% damage reduction, which is nice. Makes him a lot tankier, makes his reflect even more powerful. And his uniform is only 750, so we shouldn't expect huge changes for it, but hopefully there will be some skill changes, because Colossus's skills are kind of disappointing outside of his 5th skill. Then we have the epic quest for Deadpool. Right there, stupid X-Men is the one where I'm hoping we'll be able to farm for Colossus bios in some aspect. Otherwise, it's going to be forcing people to buy an Xtreme sub to upgrade his character to tier 2. You can use, obviously, tickets as well, but it does make it a little bit harder to get Strife, to unlock Strife. And the reason why I say that is because, and we've talked about this already, Psylocke is going to be the Magneto character, so it's a heavy crystal purchase up front with some discounts later on. But boom, this is probably the most controversial part of the update. You need Cable tier 2, you need Colossus tier 2. You don't need the uniforms, but you do need these characters, and that's also why they're going to be reducing the price of Cable's World Boss unlock fee. If you've never played World Boss Cable and you want to get started now, it's going to cost half as many crystals to unlock. Now, do I suggest that you spend those crystals to unlock him? It's really up to you. Unlocking him is going to fast track how quickly you get Cable and how quickly you get Strife. It's probably only going to take you a couple of weeks to do if you don't pay the crystals, so you kind of just have to wait 2 weeks of grinding versus the cost of those crystals versus how much you love Cable and his clone. But the Colossus one is a little bit more of a question because all of the other characters are technically free to obtain. We figured there was going to be a character like Magneto, so the Psylocke cost we can eat, but we were not expecting to have another character that you need a bio sub, an X-Gene sub for, in the form of Colossus. So hopefully they're going to give us a way to farm for him. Otherwise, yeah, potentially new players are going to have to choose Colossus in addition to maybe Luna Snow and X23 or Spider-Man 2099 as their first 3 free biosub days. If you can even choose Colossus. I don't know if it's biosub only. So yeah, that's interesting. So we're going to have to see how that kind of plays out, but it's a bit controversial right now. We have Deadpool's tier 3, which is the only character getting tier 3, but then we have all of the characters from the update getting level 70 gear 25. So you can build up those characters. I would probably start saving blast books for either Psylocke, Cable, or Strife to get their tier 3. But for now, yeah, speed books, super premium. Spider-Man, Ant-Man, and Deadpool, 3 of the obviously best characters in the game and most popular characters in the Marvel Universe. So it's going to be very difficult to choose between those 3 to tier 3. And then we have the thing that a lot of you have been asking for ages. Gifts. We can now gift people in our alliance, which makes alliances even more premium and more of a necessity. Join an alliance now. That's my pitch to you, one time only. Just get into any alliance as long as it's semi-active, because you'll be able to get free stuff. Now, it seems a bit counterintuitive because you're gonna have to request stuff and then get stuff, but those stuff that you're requesting might be the stuff that you're giving at the same time, so you might just be not gaining or losing anything. I'm not sure how it's going to work, if you actually have to pay with your own items to give these things, or if you can just give it for free from, you know, some kind of shadow bank. That would be much, much better. That, you know, it would be more about everyone logging into the game from your alliance and everyone clicking, you know, fulfill request and also requesting. But if it comes from your own stash, it's going to be a lot of just moving resources around, where one guy is super stocked up on Chaos Nornstones and one guy is super stocked up on Black Antimatter, and the two of them are just kind of redistributing their items to other people in the alliance. There's obviously some shenanigans you can take advantage of in terms of building an alliance by yourself and then creating a bunch of alt accounts, but you can only ask for support once per day. So it's really a small amount, 20 Chaos Norn Stones or less, and it would be almost too much of a headache to do it yourself to keep that up for such a small reward. So it should be a pretty nice way of rewarding people for being in alliances, and it's what a lot of people have been asking for, so voila. We're also getting something that I don't think anyone was asking for, but hey, Alliance Battle Xtreme is changing from a 7-day schedule or an 8-day schedule to a 15-day schedule. So now we will be getting very hilarious Extreme Alliance Battle challenges like Villain Female, Speed Hero Female, Speed Villain, which we only have like 4 of, and other kind of bizarre new challenges. Of course, the Strife one being the most obvious to me, as I immediately picked up on his availability for both Blast Villain and Blast Male. Bye-bye Cable, I'm guessing. But we'll have to wait and see. Having more days is good because it encourages a larger roster development, but it's only a larger number by double. We're going from 7 characters being developed to 15 or 14, which is not that great of a jump. There are some nice ones here, like we have something to hope for in the future for a universal female hero, like Captain Marvel's rework with her movie, but that's more about the character getting their dues in terms of their comic book power and their MCU presence, rather than the just excitement to score a high amount of points with Captain Marvel in ABX. So I think a lot of people's excitement for this is probably misplaced, and they're more excited about the characters than the scores. But probably some of you are excited about the scores. I'm kind of ambivalent towards this part of the update, but we'll have to wait and see just how much of an impact it has on the game for those people chasing those high scores. And then we have a new purchasable item in the shop. It's going to give you items every day that's going to build up. It's mostly centered around getting a new uniform built up to Mythic, but it's got some crystals, and I'm not sure of the value right now. It seems to be slightly above average to great, but we're going to have to break it down and do the math in a little bit more detail to see just how valuable this is. But it's just a purchase in the end. It's not a gameplay quality kind of thing. And then we have a bunch of game improvements. This one is my favorite. When you hit claim all, you don't have to collect your energy. So when you have all those Shadowland rewards, but you have all those World Boss Invasion rewards, and you don't want to collect those 300 or 250 energy, you don't have to anymore, baby. So you can min-max your energy while collecting all of your other items and not frustrating your chat by clicking acquire 500 times in a row. The kind of ASMR of that. They're doing some Uru, my neighbors are doing bowling. They're doing some Uru quality of life stuff where you can convert Uru faster. And then they're changing the growth score. So for all of you guys chasing #1 characters, level up all of their skills to level 6 now. It's finally a thing, which I've been denying. And then another big quality of life change that people have been asking for, the cap for all of the X-Men materials, Mcron shards, Mcron crystals, and Phoenix feathers has been moved from 2,000 to 3,000. Keep in mind, the cap was technically being subverted by box rewards. So anything you got from a login, like a material box or a platinum box, anytime you got a World Boss Ultimate booty chest and it gave you Phoenix feathers or shards or crystals, those would go above the limit of 2,000. So I had about 2,500 Phoenix feathers before I started spending them a couple of weeks ago. So now this new limit of 3,000 could probably be subverted all the way up to 4,000 or 5,000, which is pretty much amazing because now it means you can almost one-shot tier 2 a mutant right out of the gate without rank up tickets. Then we have some more quality of life changes to stuff that probably not a lot of you are involving yourselves in because it's not a very good return on your investment. And then we've got a bunch of gameplay improvements. Probably the biggest one I already passed, but when you reach 2 million points in Extreme Alliance Battle, it will no longer crash the game. I can't find it here, but essentially when you used to reach 2 million points, the game would crash and you'd have to start again. Now it won't crash. I think it will just cap your score at 2 million, which is much easier for those of you that were just try-harding like crazy, because you won't have to go to 1999999 and then stop playing in a very tense moment. So those are the patch notes. Let me know what you guys think of Deadpool and the update. Let me know what you think of all of the changes and all of the newness Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my videos. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you tonight. Take care.